What up, people? How y'all doing? This is y'all in the building. I'm back at y'all. As y'all see, Donald Trump is alive. And he admitted on tape he lied about the coronavirus. How about how many people it would kill or would die from it? So, for all you voting for this dude, I don't know what to tell y'all. Y'all voting for him and he's lying to y'all faces. You know? And he don't care. Oh, let me say this. I don't own the rights to this. CNN does, Don Lemon does. So I don't own the rights to this. To these interviews. Just want to get that off the straight. Get that off of my chest first. So, like I said, Donald Trump is a lie. He's telling y'all lies, blatantly to your face. You know, he don't care. So, y'all want to keep on believing the man, go right ahead.
Is back. Michael, you're sounding the alarm that this may not be a peaceful transition of power. Why do you say that?
Well, I said that again.
If he does win.
If he does
not win.
Right. Because Donald Trump believes that he should be the ruler, the dictator of the United States of America. He actually is looking to change the Constitution. When Donald Trump jokes about 12 more years, as you'll see that in my upcoming podcast called Mea Culpa, I talk about that. He's not joking. Donald Trump doesn't have a sense of humor. So I want you to understand, when he says 12 more years, if he wins, he's going to automatically, day number one, start thinking how he can change the Constitution for a third term and then a fourth term, like what he said to President Xi and like he said to so many other people. It's why he admires the Kim Jong-uns of the world.
Let me ask you this. So you write about once you had, the Stormy Daniels thing comes around more than once, right? And then finally when you have to do the payment and ultimately he doesn't pay you back. But you said you called his office, and to correct me if I'm wrong in the book, you call his office, you want to tell him that the deal has been done with Stormy Daniels, but he doesn't actually pick up the phone, but you somehow relay the message to Kellyanne Conway. Am I correct about that?
No. The deal was done with Stormy Daniels prior to the election.
So what do you relay? You said that he did not pick up your call and you knew something was up, and you have to relay that, because I'm wondering who knew about, if there was anybody else other than you. And
regarding the Stormy Daniels matter?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, obviously, her lawyer, to start. Number two was Alan Weisselberg.
Right.
He's the one who structured the deal between myself and Mr. Trump in terms of how it was going to be made, how the payment was going to be made. You'll remember in the book, I talk about, how we sat in his office first thing in the morning. He asked me whether or not I can find somebody who would buy a membership to one of his clubs, or maybe that they were having some type of an affair, a wedding, a christening, a bar mitzvah, that they can pay to her lawyer instead of paying to the Trump org, or maybe use one of the golf courses in order to hide the funds. Ultimately, I had asked Alan Weisselberg, well, you're the CFO, you make a good salary, why don't you pay for it? Yeah. He'll give you the money back.
Michael, I have less than a minute. I'm really a bit over here. But you said that the moment you knew he would be president is when he bamboozled evangelicals, when he was considering running for president, because you said that he did not believe in anything he said, especially when it comes to Christianity. And you said that he believed Planned Parenthood was poor people's way of paying for contraception. But he bamboozled a lot of people, including evangelical or evangelist Paul White and others.
Oh yeah, I sat in that room and I watched as they asked him questions, and he answered those questions exactly the way that they would want him to answer them. And I realized, wow, he would he's perfect as a politician, because he can look you straight in the face and he can lie without blinking an eye. And no different than what he did with Bob Woodward with the COVID-19. He just sat and he lied to the American people, just blatantly lied, because it was a benefit thing.
Yeah. Michael Cohen, thank you.
Don, good to see you.
It's good to see you. Thank you as well. The book again is called Disloyal, a memoir, the true story of the former personal attorney to President Donald J. Trump, Michael Cohen. Again, my thanks to him. We'll be right back.
When was the last time you really looked out the window? What do you see? The awakening of the rising sun, or light dancing across the mountaintops? Look for a moment longer and you'll see beauties all around us, like a painting, moving in the wind, speaking to the soul. The world flashing past, still yet to explore. Is your next adventure just over the rise? Look out the window. That's it. Welcome back.
Imagine the courage to challenge an entire infrastructure of oppression. We are all so lucky to have had him walk with us and show us the way.
John Lewis, Good Trouble, September 27th at 9.
3 minutes to go in normal time. Quickly, Williams takes this.
Unplug and play with the BMW 330e, X330e, and X5 45e. Introducing the BMW Electrified Fleet. Take advantage of exceptional offers on the BMW plug-in hybrid today.
Hey, college students, he doesn't care about anyone or anything other than himself. And his need to feed his ego is so great, he needed to see his name in the newspapers. He was willing to say whatever it took,
right.
even if he knows that it's racist and it's wrong.
So he knew that there was nothing to the birther thing, because he said,
Of course.
when he
Of
told
course.
you, as I recall from the book, he called up a reporter and said, I've got a team of investigators in Kenya and in Hawaii, and you would believe the things that are coming up. He just made it up, called the reporter, and you said, well, I don't believe we have anybody in those places. You want me to send someone? And he said, no, I don't care, because you think Obama, wait till this headline comes out, you think he hates you now.
It doesn't matter what the truth is. It's his truth.
But he knew it wasn't true.
Look, it's not true. We never sent anybody. He never sent anybody. He's too cheap to send anybody. I mean, the notion that he was sending somebody to Hawaii, he didn't care. He was going to get the same bang for his buck by telling somebody he sent a crew. And who wouldn't believe it? I mean, Donald Trump, has money. He's a billionaire. So why would Donald Trump, if he wants to prove that President Obama was not born in the United States, why would he not send investigators?
And you said the
because
media
he
fell for it.
believed
The media helped him spread that lie.
How about hook, line, and sinker, my friend? Hook, line, and sinker.
So he says that you said he knew better, he didn't care, and then you had this thing about we put it up about when he won the Nobel Prize. You said that Trump went ballistic, as if the universe were playing some trick on him to drive him out of his mind. But then we had this Obama that he hired, which was
Nobel Peace Prize. Wait, Nobel Peace Prize. What did he do? So, according to President Trump, what did he do to deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? Right? Because he's black and he became the first black president of the United States. He's not entitled to a Nobel Peace Prize. What did he do? And that's why Trump is so fixated right now on getting this Nobel Peace Prize that he got.
Listen, in fairness, people ask that question, but you say, but what was behind it for him, and the anger was quite different than people who are legitimately saying, why did this president get the Peace Prize?
Well, he wants that Peace Prize. If Barack Hussein Obama is capable of getting the Nobel Peace Prize, why should he not? For the same reason why, he wanted David Pecker to become the editor-in-chief of Time magazine so he could be Times Man of the Year every year.
You said he was actually afraid of being
insatiable ego.
He was actually afraid of going head-to-head with Barack Obama in the election, and also just in a debate, or even intellectually, because he knows the former president is much brighter than he is. That was a real fear for him.
Well, that certainly upsets him.
Meaning?
Well, that Barack Obama graduated top of his class from Harvard, got it on his own volition, right? And clearly is a master orator, and he's also a skilled debater. Donald Trump will turn around and tell you he's never debated before in his life, and therefore, but he knows better and he knows more. And the reason he believed that is because he doesn't work off of facts.
You said that he was a middling student. You think that he was He asked to see Barack Obama's student records, but people who saw his, or if they actually saw his records, they'd find out that he was not a great student and had some disciplinary problems. And so you masterminded this deal to have it removed so that people couldn't see how bad of a student he was.
Well, I think the use of the word masterminded is a little wrong. I followed my boss's direction. He said to me, I want you to ensure that my grades are never revealed. And I need you to go back to New York Military Academy, go to Fordham, go to University of Pennsylvania. He goes, I don't want them coming out. And so I followed my boss's orders.
You talked
And by
about...
the way, just to let you know, Don, it was actually Judge Barry once while we were sitting at The Apprentice and we were talking about it. Her comment to me was, he was at best a C student, at best. And, that's also verified by the recordings that Mary Trump has.
That explains his insecurity about the black man who was smarter and a better president than him. Michael Cohen, I want you to stick around. Less than 2 months to the election, and you're warning the president will do anything to stay in office. How far will he go? And I have some other questions about who knew about the Stormy Daniels payment. There's someone else I want to ask you about with that. And then another thing, look at my notes, I think is the moment that you said you knew he was going to be president one day. We'll be right back. 11 p.m. here on the East Coast. Following some breaking news for you. Damage control at the White House tonight after a new book by Bob Woodward reveals that President Trump knew early on just how deadly and dangerous the coronavirus was. Conceal that information. Downplay the impact of the virus on Americans. Woodward recorded 18 interviews with Trump, including this one. It was on February 7th, where the president called the virus deadly stuff.
And so what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape, but, it's a very tricky situation. It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know.
It's pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
Well, the Democratic nominee Joe Biden reacting to the revelations of the president's actions, calling them almost criminal. More from that interview with Biden, a CNN exclusive that's coming up in the hour ahead. We have a whole lot to get to tonight. So let's discuss now. CNN special correspondent Jamie Gengel is here. Our White House correspondent Caitlin Collins joins us as well. And the former senior advisor to President Barack Obama, David Axelrod, is here as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you joining us this evening. Jamie, I'm going to start with you. So the president had life-saving information about this pandemic and lied about it, meaning the 190,000 Americans who died, they didn't have to.
It is beyond belief. The Woodward book paints a portrait of failure of leadership, betrayal of trust. How is it that on February 7th, Donald Trump knew that it was airborne and that today he is still mocking people who wear masks? It is just... It's unbelievable. For those of us old enough to remember Watergate and the famous question from then Senator Howard Baker, what did the president know and when did he know it? It turns out Donald Trump knew this very early on and could have saved thousands of lives.
David Axelrod, the president admitted in private that this virus was deadly, but in public he was calling it a Democratic hoax. A dereliction of duty seems like an understatement about this.
Yeah, well, clearly he subjugated the public interest to what he considered his political interest. He was worried about what the economy would do if he had to take the kind of measures that were necessary to deal with his explanation today, because you can't call it fake news when you're on tape. That's the big problem they have right now. And whoever committed him to 18 interviews with Bob Woodward really ought to be given a one-way ticket out of the White House tomorrow. But he's on tape. He said it, and his explanation was, "I don't want to panic people." That is a new policy on the part of this president, because he's very busy trying to panic people all the time about various things, about rioters and immigrants and others. So the real answer is he subjugated the public interest to his personal political interest, which is a common story for Donald Trump. But on this one, this is a hit to the main engine, because the virus is what's controlling this election right now. It's what's controlling the lives of the American people in many ways, and now his misbehavior is costing them in a big way. And I think this brings this all back to the forefront. It's a really serious problem for him.
Caitlin, David brings up a good question. Do we know of who greenlit this? Because now he's, his defense is, oh, this is a political hit job. But he sat down for 18 interviews on tape, all in his own words.
Yeah, there is so much blame going around the White House right now that it's kind of hard to even fathom. It is people like the former press secretary blaming certain people. People are blaming Stephanie Grisham as well, Hope Hicks, Jared Kushner, Lindsey Graham, Mick Mulvaney. Everyone's name basically that was around and in any way involved in this is being blamed right now for letting the president sit down this extensively with Bob Woodward. But what regards to what David said, whoever allowed the president to sit down with Woodward 18 times should be given a one-way ticket out of the White House. It was the president who ultimately made this decision to sit down with Woodward this much, based on what our sources are telling us. He was the one who he was so scorned that he did not sit down with him last time, that he thought truly that he could make himself look good in this interview if he sat down with Woodward in this book to really make his case, essentially. And that is what aides see is so damaging now, that if he had not sat down with him or talked to him these 18 times, that this interview and this book would not be nearly as damaging as it now is proven to be.
Jamie, I understand that you're learning that the president bragged about something that he shouldn't have in his first interview with Woodward. What do you know?
Well, the president was not willing to share critical details about COVID, but in his very first interview with Bob Woodward, he decided to tell him about a new secret nuclear weapons program. And I think we have part of that interview.
But I have built a weapon system that nobody's ever had in this country before. We have stuff that you haven't even seen or heard about. We have stuff that Putin and Xi have never heard about before. Because what we have is incredible.
Don, they know about it now, so does everybody else. Woodward went out and confirmed that such a system does exist. But the thing, just to go back to what Caitlin said about why he did these interviews, he did these interviews because he wanted to do these interviews. And there's a critical fact here. 2 interviews were done in the Oval Office, 1 at Mar-a-Lago. Those were likely taped by the White House staff. The other 15 interviews were phone calls, many of them late at night from the residents, that were probably not recorded. The White House probably doesn't even know what else President Trump said to Woodward on those tapes.
Remember her emails, David? I mean, that's interesting.
No, I know. But, just relative to what Caitlin said, he may be the one who gets a one-way ticket out of the White House as a result of these interviews. I think it's that big a mistake. On this issue, this is the issue that is plaguing him right now. This is the issue he cannot escape, and he just made it immeasurably worse for himself by revealing what he knew and when he knew it, as Jamie said. So, the president is a master of it. He's his own communications director. He's his own chief of staff, and he may have made a politically fatal decision.
David, let me play this because I want to get your response to this as well. This is from a June 19th interview with Woodward 2 weeks after Trump had the protesters cleared from Washington's Lafayette Square for a photo op. Here it is.
Hey, but let me ask you this. I mean, we share one thing in common. We're white, privileged, and my father was a lawyer and a judge in Illinois, and we know what your dad did. And do you have any sense that privilege has isolated and put you in a cave to a certain extent? Is it put me, and I think lots of white privileged people, in a cave, and that we have to work our way out of it to understand the anger and the pain particularly black people feel in this country?
No, you really drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you? You switched it to you. Wow. No, I don't feel that at all.
So the country was grappling, David, with racial unrest, and that's what the president says?
Yeah, but Don, I would say you and probably most of the rest of America wouldn't be surprised by that quote. Because he's not shown real sensitivity on these issues from the beginning. He's made it clear that he doesn't believe that there is any kind of systemic racism. He doesn't believe that there's any sort of white privilege in this country. So this just confirms what people know. I'm not saying that it isn't abhorrent, and it is it's a terrible shortcoming in a president of a big, diverse nation like this. But you know, the other piece, when we're in the middle of that pandemic, I think is even more damning. But there's no doubt that this really underscores his views on the issue of race, but he almost wears that as a badge of pride.
Yeah, you really drank the Kool-Aid on this one. Caleb, the president is making Black Lives Matter a big part of his campaign message. He's, you know, as you know, talking a lot about Confederate monuments. Race is a central issue in this presidency. It is the central issue, this and the coronavirus. But in this presidency and his campaign, I think even more so than the coronavirus, before this Woodward thing, it was race and scary black people and protesters and on and on and on.
Yeah, that's why it's so notable when the president is saying things like, well, I don't want the American people to panic. That is actually a tool that he has tried to use time and time again, whether it's over what he said about suburbs recently, what he said about a caravan in 2018. But this was a moment in these wide-ranging interviews that Bob Woodward did where he was trying to have the president be self-reflective just for a moment and to see what the president would say. You saw the way Woodward approached that question, and the president let him answer. If you have done the kind of reporting that I've done on Trump and his phone calls, he doesn't normally let people speak. He normally is the one who does most of the talking in these phone calls and in conversations he has. And you see how he does respect Woodward. He does understand what kind of weight Woodward holds in the journalism world. So he lets him ask this question where he is trying to get a reflective answer from the president, and then to see how he answers it there, it really is incredibly revealing of his worldview and how, you know, there are things when it comes to coronavirus where what he says privately differs to what he says publicly, and you can see here how with an answer like that, what the president is saying privately compared to what he is saying publicly to voters when it comes to a matter that is very important, according to our polls and many others, to voters, which is race. That is something that people are concerned about. And you see how the president answers that when he knows he's doing an interview with someone who is writing a book about him.
Well, it sounds like, Jamie, he may have been, I don't know what you think, trying to impress Woodward a bit, but there's clearly more to come. This is just the beginning of this book. There's going to be more fallout. There's more to come.
No question. And to Caitlin's point, when you read the book, you will see in the interviews, Trump says, it would really be an honor to get a good book from you. And then the next minute he's saying, but it probably won't be. I mean, he was worried about it. You see the theme throughout the book. But just remember, 18 interviews, that is hours and hours and hours of tape. And I think there is much more to come, Don.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. The president admitting he didn't tell us the truth about what he knew about the coronavirus. The virus has killed more than 190,000 Americans. So what do the people who risked their lives to battle this virus think about that? Next. Plus, a CNN exclusive. Joe Biden blasts the president's coronavirus response.
He waved a white flag. He walked away. He didn't do a damn thing. Think about it. Think about what he did not do. And it's almost criminal.